King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard Flight B741 album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from highly prolific psychedelic rock band out of Australia, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Since showing up on the scene since the early 2010s, my God, they've released a lot of material. Yeah, 25 last year. This is their 26th, and it's exhausting to think about, and it's been a wild ride, and thankfully I've enjoyed most of what they've put out over the years, mostly because it has been so sprawling, and you really never know what album you're gonna get from them. The psych folk of Paper Mache Dream Below, the eco-friendly robo-funk of Fishing for Fishies, also their death metal releases, like Infest the Rat's Nest, that's a good one. But because their discography is so gigantic, there's been plenty of albums that have just kind of been okay in the King Gizzard discography canon for me. You know, I've never been a Butterfly 3000 guy. I've never been a Sketches of Brunswick East guy. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, every once in a while, they also drop something that I can't stop talking about, like last year's Petrodragonic Apocalypse, which was my runner-up for Album of the Year. So I never really know, what they're going to drop, obviously, but on top of that, even if I'm going to like it. Now, leading up to this record, it has been a wild ride. Now, leading up to this new record, once again, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are very clearly going for a different sound. They are taking the sort of robo-funk from Fishing for Fishies, as well as the psych folk of Paper Mache Dream Balloon, and fusing it together with some good old-fashioned boogie rock, as well as some roots rock, and the result probably shouldn't work as good as it does. Leading up to this thing, the singles, they didn't really do much for me for quite some time, but they've all grown on me immensely once I've kind of locked in on the groove. I don't exactly talk about this on the channel that much, but I am in fact a deadhead very deep down inside, and a lot of the sounds of this album just make me feel like home. Mirage City kicks this album off, and it is a tremendous start. I love the overall zaniness of this track. This is very much a very freaky album from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It has a lot of urgency to it, and dare I say, it's pretty epic. It starts out very stripped down and bluesy. It's got a very breezy atmosphere to it, as well as some really seriously great harmonies. Get used to me saying that because a lot of this record has just that. It's a very feel-good, good vibe project. It's soulful, it's a little bluesy at times. It's also full of so much heart, and that's all before this transitions into a much, much, much more standard bluesy number. The harmonica work, the guitar work is great. As a matter of fact, the riffs throughout this project are really, really memorable. Awesome start, absolutely freaking awesome. Great introduction to this sound, and Antarctica is even better. This one keeps the jammy vibes and the bluesy soul going strong. I love the gnarly riff and the pianos on this track. It actually does a really great job of making King Gizzard just sound really loose. King Gizzard throughout this project just sound like they're having a lot of fun. You can tell it in the harmonies. Once again, good vibes. And let me tell you, they really do lock in on this groove. Now, they are going for that old school boogie-woogie jam style. And let me tell you, this could have been a freaking mess. But they put so much energy and passion into this, I just cannot sit through this without having the biggest smile on my face. Yeah, my toe is tapping, and it continues to tap with raw feel. Like I said, I grew up with a lot of the sounds of this record. Like I said, I grew up with a lot of the sounds of this record, quite a few of them. However, my music taste as I become an adult, I'm just not into this style usually anymore. But then I just hear how joyous these harmonies are and just how sunny this atmosphere is. And I hear the Giz lock in on this groove, and I'm back to my teens. I love the way this track slinks along. It's just got this really cool vibe to it. And a lot of this track is really enjoyable just because of how twisted the lyrics get, which is kind of par for the course with the band, and it's something that I've grown to really love. Field of Vision is the first single that I heard here that I immediately really enjoyed. I love how bluesy and sleazy this track comes off. That harmonica is really fantastic. And it's done really classy. The Giz, when they do adopt a sound like this, not only do they skim the surface, they really do a deep dive and really push themselves within the genre. Also, the swagger of this track is absolutely ridiculous. As far as a fun King Gizzard album goes, this might be my new favorite. Yeah, they bring the boogie and they bring it hard. I will say this, very late in the record, well, we do get a couple of glimpses of how trashy this album could have been. Like Sand Pilot, for example. This track to me is cursed, and I think it's the worst track here. It is so sluggish. It is so painful to listen to. It is just not enthusiastic for this sound at all. You can point at this track and just say, hey, this is what we could have got. I mean, every track doesn't have to be some weirdo, freaky fun, but at least sound like you're having a good time. This sounds phoned in, and Rats in the Sky isn't exactly much better. Like, this has been an album very clearly of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard not taking themselves too seriously. But then I look at this track and I'm like, well, yeah, maybe you should tighten it up a little bit. It's just a steep decline for me, and compared to some of the genuinely fun tracks on this record, which there are so many of, this just doesn't reach the margin. And I don't know how they did it, but as far as I'm concerned, the rest of this album, my hat is off. I'm really impressed. I do really like Hog Calling Contest. This track has some really great guitar work and a very freaky, fun spirit. And listen, if this album isn't your favorite King Gizzard project because of how light it is, I'd recommend giving this track a shot. It's a little bit more upbeat, heady, and lively. And Le Risque, I have the weirdest relationship with this track. Like the first month and a half this track was out, I avoided it like the plague. It was so grating to me. And now the last month, I have literally been not able to get it out of my head. And it has become truly one of my favorite rock singles of the year. The dueling vocals, the immense swagger, the guitar work, the over-the-top performances, everything about this track is genius. I am having a lot more than the recommended dose of fun with this project. Also, Flight's B741, this album's title track, I actually really love this thing. Once again, they are working those blues elements hard. Now, vocal-wise, this isn't exactly the most animated performance here, but there is still just such a warmness and inviting nature to this track. It ends up being really hypnotic vocal-wise by the end of it, and I can't say no. The vibes, they are just really, really good. And Daily Blues, as a finale, is a really classy one. I love the serious boogie influence and just how really hard they ride this thing. I mean, this track goes for almost 8 minutes, and they lock in on this groove, and they jam. Stylistically, it's not the most wowing track here, but man, do they ever keep up in a really great way. I mean, personally, I don't really know how they continue to stay consistent, and when they hone in on a sound, I don't know how they make it their own this quickly, but by this time on their next album, they'll probably be back to a heavier sound, or maybe even something that they've never touched before. But maybe it's just me, maybe it's just, you know, growing up with a lot of these sounds, or maybe it's just them being this good at incorporating different genres. But I think I have a new favorite fun album from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And yes, we do get a couple of moments late in the record that are truly nightmarish, truly cursed examples of what this record could have been. But overall, this is just a freaky, funky album that is free-spirited and just so enjoyable and instantaneous. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this project, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.